Right, welcome everyone at the next multi-network community sync. Today we have January 20th. From my side, I have two topics. I want to close on the first PR about the requirements, use cases, and motivation. And then I think we want to do some discussion on network class. If anyone had a chance to review what Lionel wrote, I would like to kind of have that kind of put the next steps on this. And then if there's other questions, kind of to summarize that. And if you have any other topics, please feel free to add. I left a link to the notes in the chat. So for the first thing, I think I have few reviews. Thank you, Lionel, from your side. I had Bowie reviewing, and then I saw some folks from I think Microsoft as well looked at it. Um, this week, I am trying to pursue LGTM so that I can finally merge it. I got already one from you, Lionel. I think I addressed your comments as well, so see if that's fine, or if you have other comments on that. Um, Otherwise, yes, maybe just to quickly summarize in some ways this guy as well. The files change. Let me load this guy. So basically, what we're gonna have is uh, the definition of the kind of maybe the whole doc will be a definition of what we want to do, but with the ability to change this doc. I think this is one thing I recently added. So it's not like this doc is in the requirements and everything is set in stone. We are open to kind of changing this definition in the future. Of course, with discussion in this meeting, right, with all of us and how we want to do that. So this doc isn't final. I think we slightly modified the default pod network definition, simplified it a bit, and then added a section about pod network. What do we mean by it, and what we want to do achieve it with it. Beside that, we have a motivation that basically our main goal for the effort is ability to identify and group the pods interfaces in pods network interfaces. That's basically the gist of it, so that later on we can leverage it in some ways to build future features via that. And then I have some descriptions of what will that mean for serviceability, network policies, and I'm calling out as well default pod network, where we are calling out this might require some changes in the core, right? And there are the three stories that we do care about. We want to kind of call out kind of ability to have an identifier for the virtual switch cases, and how do I identify which network is what, and how and basically to be able to call that out when I create a pod. The other one is basically KubeVirt to support multi VMs and VPC-like behavior in the cluster. And then lastly, a case where we want to have like a change the default interface in the namespace. So that basically I create a pod. I don't care which network it's attached to, but it's different than usual, but it still has the functionality of Kubernetes. And then lastly, I called out requirements out of this, right? I think the one thing that we added is, I think the first one to kind of your comment, Lionel. We want to call that we do not want to push any multi-network specific things into core. Or in other words, we don't want to make the core be multi-network aware, right? So that's kind of the key here. All that kind of things has to stay here. Though doesn't block us from modifying or tweaking core in generic way so that it helps us, that is not. So I'm saying that is definitely on the table to kind of allow that. And then the other thing is that the stuff shouldn't change the behavior of clusters without the multi-network. And then two, I think, main things is ability to identify the interfaces, and then lastly the ability to enable features like serviceability and firewall, aka network policies. And then the last piece is the default network that we called out. So to kind of give you call out is to the last story where we want to change the default network in a namespace, right? Where it doesn't have to be the one that I created a cluster with, but I would want to kind of use something else as the default network for a namespace. So the single interface is connected to completely something else than the rest of the cluster. Yeah, and that's basically it. Any questions to this? So I would appreciate, folks, if you have some wording help, or you still disagree with something, or you do agree with this. We have quite various folks around today, so please LGTM this if you can. That definitely will give it better legitimacy going forward if we have more folks around reviewing and approving this, so that we can move forward and basically get it moved on, right? So that we can move to the next thing. So please see if you have any other comments on this, minor, major, whatever. Please feel free. Don't be afraid to leave your comments, or even just leave LGTM if you feel this is fully fine. Please leave an LGTM as well, so that we can that will give us like a better confidence of having the community aligned with what we want to do. All right, sure. Going back to the other thing. So the other topic was Lionel created a overview of what we want to do around the network class. Sorry. So this one, basically what I want to do is go through that one as well to give some high level of what we're thinking, because I feel this is what we want to pursue next as a next PR to get merged and aligned with everyone on. So as a just quick overview, I'm not sure how much of you been around in the meeting. We always were thinking of doing some sort of a pod network object that will represent the network and could hold some spec, and that might point to something that implementations have in terms of parameters. But I think this is kind of awkward, and we got to push back on, oh, is that going to be a standard or not? So for that reason, I feel that I think the network class approach is much simpler, because we do not want to standardize on parameters across implementations. I don't think it's possible to do. Everyone has their own opinions and what a network is and how it can be defined, all that. I think, Lionel, there's something that we will have to add to like alternatives on the bottom or something, like in terms of like considered. I think this can be added into the PR, don't have to be added here. But that's basically the reason we are kind of thinking network class is a better approach. What the network class is basically a definition of implementations in your cluster, right? And just purely that, so that we know that some object there represents that, right? And we then want to standardize around it on how we would integrate this with the array. I think this is something that we definitely want to push and standardize on across the board, that a multi-network is going to be done via DRA and DRA only. I would say, because we are calling out on how that has to be done. So as I mentioned, the network class is very straightforward, has only a reference of to something that the implementation did. So basically has all the how we call GVK fields to identify group, version, and kind of whatever the implementation has as support. I think, finally, when I think about this now, no, I was thinking, what if someone doesn't have a parameters? But basically, then they could use like a config map, right? That can be their network as well, right? So there is a way out for someone that, oh, I want to have a simple just name schema without any parameters. So how we go around that? Yeah, you can create a config, use a config map for that, and go by that, right? You don't have to create a CRD, and that will work as well.
A config map would be strange, I believe, because it means that all the config map will be considered as the
fair point.
Yeah.
But okay.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe we can consider this case. I don't know if there's this case exist, but maybe we can consider this case later and start with the simple part for now.
Yeah, I think that this kind of pushes everyone to have a CRD. I think this is where I'm getting at, right? So that's a thing out of it. So for now, from what you're saying, I'm fine with that as well. So that's the object. And then basically we call out the DRA integration aspects, right? One of it is identifying keywords for attributes. So you might be aware or you're not, DRA is able to, and we are not calling this out. We are assuming that the reader is aware of the DRA in that form. Maybe, I'm not sure, Lionel, do we have to explain that or not? But resource slices is a DRA object that allows you to list out devices that your driver supports. And basically what we are saying, and those devices have attributes. And we are saying that when you do multi-network, you have to have those standardized attributes called out for your devices, right? And those will call out your name of the network. We adding namespace as well for the namespace objects, and then a class that you call out, right? So basically, this is an identifier of your basically device that a pod can attach to. This is the one part of this whole picture, and the other part is the DRA aspects based on that. There is something called claims, where you use those attributes to select a specific device from the list of resource slices. And you can see here, this is the, I think this is, no, yeah, this is the one, right? Pod network name. That basically we say, okay, I want to attach to this specific pod network, right? The blue network can be of a type, of a kind, whatever. We don't care about this, right? So that's the kind of key here that Lionel's proposing, where we are not tying the implementation to any specific kind here. It can be anything, but then all the other parameters has to be passed into the. In this case, in this example, it's in the device class, because of how DRA allows you to shift around the attributes. So that's why this one has only this one attribute called out, but you can have them all in this one expression. And basically that's the core of the whole thing. And then there is the part of the feedback where basically when your driver finally gets to install the device into the pod, you are required to fill in the data inside the claim. This is a status section. This was a spec section, this part. So now this is a status section where we are saying all the devices that you put into and related to multi-network, you should fill in the network data. And then there is a other data field that we are thinking, right, Lionel? At least this is in my original. I think we should. This is what this comment all about. to be able as to, from the status, link this device into the network that you are pulling from, right? So basically, the attributes that you put here, you would somehow put them in this item as well, so that I can easily identify what's what. And I have this in my original PR, which Lionel, I think we'll see whether we want to do the next step, what we want to do. So we'll get to that. But basically, this is the last piece of this whole puzzle, to be able to provide the feedback, loop feedback, kind of, that, okay, this is the interface we put in. It belongs to this network. Yes, ma'am.
Just to mention that the part that you mentioned about putting the network reference in the status is for simplification, because we can already identify to which network this belongs to, because if we check the device name, the driver and the pool, and we check in the resource slice the corresponding device, then we can check the attributes. But it's a lot of reference that we'll have to do.
Yeah, that's what I would like to avoid. And keep in mind, though, I'm not sure, resource slice is basically a let's call it a database for resources, right? How it's treated, and it can change, I feel, right? This is the status here. It's like a status of a pod, right? In terms of the current state of the pod, what happens, right? Because resource slice is a dynamic object that can change, and basically this reflects the current state of the pod, and which is immutable. I think this is very important part, right? You said it once and never change, right? So going for such reference to, I would be feeling very kind of, it might be shaky, you see, and not fully solid implementation if you were to say that, here, for that reference, go to this dynamic file, which can constantly change. You see?
Right. But if you remove the network from the resource slice, does that mean that, I mean, it's a bit ambiguous. For me, I would say that the network doesn't exist anymore because you don't expose it anymore. So your device should not be attached to it anymore.
I'm not sure. So hot plugin, is that a thing in the array?
No, it's not yet. I mean, I don't know if it's planned. There was some discussion, but it's not.
I don't feel they might, maybe, but okay. So the core principle of pod is its immutability. I think, though, it can change, like with config maps. I recently learned that you can modify config map, and that gets updated into your pods as when it's mounted as volume.
The pod spec are not immutable. There's this feature, vertical pod scaling, that you can change the CPU and memory on the fly.
That's a fair. So those are resources that okay. Yeah, I just contradicted myself. You're right. So yeah, maybe I think we're moving away from that.
Just to add on this part, there's an initiative in the device management group to put CPU and native resources like memory also in the array, so we can do the same functionalities in more advanced way. So maybe some people would push for similar features like updating on the fly the resources. But I mean, I'm just trying to guess, but I'm not sure.
So then, and now that I think about this, if we were to standardize on that status that I'm pushing for, then if we are supporting the dynamics, like the hot plugin and basic ability to modify, then you would have to reflect that in the pod, and then you would have to update the device, this list with this data section of the device. And if the source of truth is the slice, then you don't. Then basically, if that changes, that means that's how it's reflected inside the pod as well. So you don't have to additionally change something here. So that's definitely better. Yeah. I feel that then maybe I need to then look at the resource slice definition itself, right? To kind of see my concerns on that. Okay, I will kind of try to dig on that one as well. But yeah, I see what you're saying, Lionel. Maybe this is boils down to better defining the resource slice around this, um, to see if just go by the reference into that is better. And what is the reference? Because if I haven't looked at the the DRAnet driver. I think it was removing the resources, right? I'm not sure whether that got fixed or not, but I remember that it when you push that device into a
Right.
pod, it have been deleting the resource from the slice.
I mean, this could always happen if you remove on the fly a nick in a server and then you discover permanently the interfaces. Then yeah, you will have to remove it from your resource slice.
So what you do then? Because then you're screwed, right? Because you don't have the reference.
Yes, I'm not sure how this is handled and how this is planned to be handled in the array.
So that's a problem then, right? Because if you're saying you can go to the slice to for the reference, but it's not discovered anymore, it's not discoverable because it's gone, because it's pushed into the pod. So yeah, the root namespace does not have that. So what do we do then, right? That's a big problem. That's why the data is the way around it. But yeah, you see that's an issue, right? Because the
Right.
whole identification part goes away, right? We don't have then the means to identify who do you belong to, right?
Yeah, but if you remove the pod network itself, like user-defined network in Open Kubernetes on the fly while some pods are connected to it, then you will need to remove the resource slice, and your pod will still have the reference to it via the resource claim, but they will no longer be attached to it, to the network. So it's
So on that part is I feel implementation specific approach on how they want to handle that, Lionel. And why I'm saying this is that you could, if I'm not wrong, if you delete a config map, you still are attached to it, right? Unless kubelet eventually I don't think it will remove the spec. You might be able just having empty config map eventually, right? Right, but basically you're still attached to it, right? The volume is mounted in the specific path, but basically it's gonna be empty. I think that's how it's gonna end up when you delete a config map. I don't feel like we can do that here, and this is why I'm saying that it has to be implementation specific, whether you go and disconnect that interface or when you delete the network itself, right? So that's something that implementation specific approach has to be taken, and I don't think we have to call it out here. I don't want to definitely specify how that has to behave because it's up to implementation how they want to implement that. We are just going means to identify that, right? So let's make sure those are defined. So this is where we need to hook into the array to see is the resource slice that so dynamic that we shouldn't rely on it for identification, right? I think that's the question we need to answer from our point of view. You see that, right?
yeah,
How
and
you treated the deletion of a network, you handle it, you deal with it, right?
right.
You define it from implementation point of view, right? How you want to do it, but then we have to standardize on how we identify the thing,
Right.
in
To
a
me,
robust way, of course, right? As well. Yeah, go ahead.
it was mostly if you remove the device from the resource slice, then you are no longer connected to the network.
Yeah, I feel then, but that's the way you might think and implement it. I might not.
Because
From me, if I have a, I would tell you this: if I would go with the immutable approach for network for pod, right, spec, and keep in mind your networking isn't CPU. CPU will just get used, the workload will get slower, right? If you remove a network, you break the whole thing. That's the big difference between modifying resources like CPUs or memory versus a network, right? So I would be more cautious on hot pluggability of networking thing. Yeah. So for that reason, I don't feel we can apply one rule for everything. And because of that, I would prefer initially to ride on the cautious side, safe way, rather than and basically treat it as a you delete the network, fine with you, but I will connect you to the internet to the network. I will not change the existing pods the way they are, at least for how I'm seeing it. Yes, Sonia.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michelle. I think that should be like the driver specific
Yeah,
implementation,
yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
recommendations when you remove the custom resource. If you have like the prevention rule saying that there is this pod and those pod using this stuff, you cannot just delete it or something like that. It's depend on the implementations on the drivers. We can list that in like out of scope or non-go for these definitions.
Mhm.
More clear how that should be implemented.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, definitely we should probably put it out in here as well, Lionel, in terms of like non-goals to call those things right out. There should be implementation specific things on how you behave when your kind is deleted, right? I
Mhm.
feel that though we need to support all the cases or like from DRA point of view, right? And how we integrate with it so that everyone is happy with this, right? That's one part. The standard has to be able to do or be independent out of your decisions, right? I think that's the key here. So there's something. Okay, let's maybe dig further on the resource slice. So that's something that I feel we need to get the better definition of it, of how we could treat it. Um, Let me follow up on that one. I will try to maybe internally get some info as well on
Mm.
that.
I will document also what we just
Mm.
talked about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think this is basically that. Um, so this is the kind of diagrams that kind of define of how the user is gonna use the whole thing, create the network class pointing to specific object. You have your DRA driver that basically handles the whole thing in terms of listing the resource slices and then piping the interfaces to the pod and understanding all the kind of things. We create the resource, this is the resource slice part, and then you have the claim itself, like with the selector. You pass it to the pod, and then this is how you get your interface connected into it. And then the feedback on terms of what IP and who it belongs to is the last piece. Um, Lastly, what we are planning to do is define a conformance test, right? That whenever you have a network class for your stuff, it properly sets the attributes for slice, for the resource slice, and then if I put a resource claim for those, I get a pod with the network, and it has the updates the status. I think that's the last one, right? Yeah, those are the three things we want to call out, right? List, so discoverability, what is it? Plugin ability, and then the status of that. So the three things will have a conformance test that will then basically check out the three things. And then Lionel kind of lists as well the pieces that I called out with the serviceability, with more concrete example of providing on a network reference, right? Which basically hold the class, the name, and the namespace as well, optionally, for any other objects if we were to integrate them with, right? Like service, and if anyone, I want to make sure that service will I don't see any probability of modifying the service. It's already a overloaded object. Our goal will be to push it toward Gateway API rather than service to support this whole functionality. But here, just as an example for better understanding, we would just add that field into the spec, and from there you can point on which network I want to do my service on, right? So this is the basically indicator of basically this is how it all ties together with the next level of integration. This is why we are building the previous things is basically for this kind of things. And you can think of something similar for, let's say, network policies, any other features we can think of, right? Again, I think what are the next step here? Let's follow up on the resource slides. I will, and Lionel, if you can see from your side to have a better definition for that. We probably need to create this, Lionel, as a PR now so that we can create a and have that. I'm not sure whether you want to modify the one I created or create another one. I think you can start. Maybe this can be just another one. I would recommend you though merging that one I created. It has some stuff on the DRA integration and some pictures. If you want to borrow those, you're all welcome to those. But I think the goal is to have a PR out of this now. Do you agree, or you still want to kind of sit on it and have it in a doc form?
To me, it's fine to create a PR now.
Yeah. So let's do that, and then we can have a proper doc out of that, so that we can have another things to focus on and close on, so that we can finally get something implemented. After, I think now it's 3 years now. So yeah, share this up instead. Okay, so folks, feel free to get that network class if you haven't reviewed, or wait for the PR. Lionel, you can probably link the PR when you have it ready in the Slack channel, so that we can then start reading the final version with the wording and what's not, and start from there. All right. I think any other questions on the class? Nothing. Okay. Go ahead, Lionel. You have the last piece as well.
Yes. So there's a new cap for network policies, and it's a bit similar to another one that I proposed that would have been, I think, helpful for multi-network. That was about adding a label that disable the endpoint slice controller for the services. And now there's another cap for network policies that is similar. So to add a label to set the controller name. So if we have multiple implementation of network policies, then we can control which implementation should apply the network policy. So this might be a bit helpful for network policies. And there's a reference to multi-network at the end in the alternatives at the bottom of the document, and to the network class also. So what could be done in the future potentially if multi-network, one multi-network will happen. So I just wanted to share this cap with the group, and if anyone has any comment or anything, but I think it's a good step for, like, small step for multi-network for native resources.
Yeah, let's. I think I was at a kind of point that, but yeah, let's feel folks free to kind of get a review and look at it. We can monitor this as well. I think I was tagged on it before as well, but didn't have time yet to kind of get it a read. But yeah, definitely on my radar as well. All right. Anything else anyone want to bring up?
Just a question. I put this in a comment of your PR for the use cases. Should we, because in the initial CAP that you created, there was a lot of use cases and a lot of like features proposed. Should we document like what has been done in the area and how this could be achieved in the area? Because many of them are no longer, it's no longer something that we are focusing.
I'm not
mostly on.
sure whether. I think we want to state on what we are focusing, right? I would not want. So that's the definition of the multi-network. I don't feel the requirement should identify that yes, you shall use the array. I think I want to move away from that and don't want to call that there. So the array reference is there. I think not sure how to do that in best in the best way. When you think about this, so that we can. From the Docker point of view is, we're focusing only on those 3 items. I think what I can call out there that any other use cases of passing a direct, or maybe I can do that, right? Add some statement that in terms of use cases for where we pass just a device into a pod directly without any networking awareness in terms of kind of going beyond just having an IP on the interface. So they can be handled by the DRA that fully allows us to do this, right? So let me call out that. That's I think that part is fine because we are just saying that there is already a mechanism for you to handle those cases via that. Okay, let me do that.
Maybe could be done in Kubernetes blog. I don't know if this is possible.
Maybe I feel like eventually we might have that kind of page that like Gateway API has. I don't know how they did it, where they host it. You have the Gateway API 6 on this page. Let me share this page.
The website.
So they have this. So they have this page. In some ways, we eventually need to get something like this. Then that we can have the concepts and basically call all those more details through this, right? I'm not sure how do you create such a web page for now, but basically that's what we need.
In their case, they use Netlify. It's just like compiling your markdown to a website.
But I think then I'm not sure whether that's how they. I need to kind of probably ask Rob how they did that, so that we can then maybe have a web page. It's definitely easier than they have a domain and everything. I'm not sure whether that's something that's hosted. Is that something Kubernetes specific, or is it somehow that and GitHub? So I need to follow up on how we can get web page like this, and maybe then we can have more kind of details. I am focusing.
Otherwise.
Go ahead, Lam. Say again.
No, I was just saying I could help for this. I did something similar before, so I could help on this.
All right. For now, I just want to, I don't want to distract myself with web pages because I want to kind of get some coding done because we are trying to get to that stage for so long that I don't want to distract ourselves from that. And then when we're gonna have more time, then we can work on getting better message across. But for now, just want to define the core and move on and get to a coding phase where we can start doing some of that. That's kind of how I'm seeing it for now. But eventually we could create something like this. All right. Anything else? All right. Let's call it for today. Thanks everyone. And just one more call up for the reviews so that we can close. Appreciate folks looking at the docs and get them reviewed. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
You.